China's economic outlook continues to weaken, with several key challenges exacerbating its slowdown. The International Monetary Fund (IMF) recently downgraded China's growth forecast for 2024 to 4.8%, citing a worsening property crisis that is straining local governments and financial stability. Property sector challenges have led to declining investment and increased default risks, impacting broader economic confidence. Additionally, China's post-pandemic recovery remains uneven. While recent government stimulus measures boosted retail sales and factory output, consumer confidence and private sector investment lagged behind expectations. Structural issues, such as high debt levels and demographic shifts, are also constraining long-term growth potential. Efforts to stabilize the economy, including a $1.4 trillion package to address local government debts, reflect the government's attempts to mitigate risks. However, these policies may not be enough to counteract external pressures, including slowing global demand and geopolitical tensions, which are reducing export growth. China's ongoing economic challenges have global implications, as its slowdown affects trade, commodity markets, and investor sentiment worldwide. The country's trajectory emphasizes the need for significant reforms to stimulate domestic consumption and diversify its economic base. The United States is preparing to impose new tariffs on Chinese imports, signaling a significant escalation in its trade strategy. The Biden administration announced updates following a comprehensive review of existing tariffs under the Section 301 investigation. The new measures will target key industries, including electric vehicles (EVs), semiconductors, batteries, steel, and aluminum. For example, tariffs on EVs will rise from 25% to 100%, while duties on steel and batteries will triple. These actions aim to counter China's continued practices of forced technology transfers, intellectual property theft, and extensive industrial subsidies. The U.S. government argues that these practices create overcapacity in global markets, undercutting American businesses and workers. The tariffs are part of a broader effort to de-risk the economic relationship with China while safeguarding strategic industries. The administration has emphasized that these measures are designed to promote fair competition and prevent market distortions caused by China's state-backed economic policies. However, the increased tariffs come with economic trade-offs, including potential higher costs for American consumers and businesses. Critics have noted that the move could also complicate efforts to accelerate green energy transitions, as many clean energy technologies rely on Chinese-made components. Firstly, thank you for watching, and don't forget to smash that like, subscribe, and notification bell for more global finance uncovered, as we continue to work hard and around the clock to always deliver and improve on our content for you. We would greatly appreciate your additional support by you clicking the like button, notification bell, and subscribe button and joining our channel's growth. China has reacted strongly, condemning the tariff hikes as damaging to bilateral relations. Beijing has indicated it will take necessary measures to protect its interests, potentially escalating tensions further. Analysts suggest this could result in retaliatory tariffs or other economic measures from China. The policy marks a notable shift in President Biden's approach, which initially sought to maintain the existing tariffs from the Trump era but focused on export controls rather than broad import restrictions. This new approach underscores the administration's determination to address China's economic strategies head-on. While the tariffs affect only a fraction of U.S.-China trade, approximately $18 billion worth of goods, their symbolic importance is significant. They reflect an ongoing realignment in U.S. trade policy, prioritizing economic security over unfettered globalization. This development also underscores broader geopolitical tensions, as the U.S. seeks to reduce its dependence on China for critical supply chains. Policies like the Inflation Reduction Act and CHIPS Act are aligned with these tariff measures, aiming to boost domestic production of strategic goods. As the global trade landscape shifts, these tariffs are likely to influence the strategies of multinational corporations reliant on China-based supply chains. The move also puts pressure on other nations to consider similar de-risking strategies, potentially reshaping international trade dynamics. Overall, the new tariffs reflect an intensification of economic competition between the U.S. and China, with significant implications for global markets, bilateral relations, and the future of globalization. Recent news on China's economic, political, and social landscape highlights a deepening sense of uncertainty and challenges for the country. Economically, China faces a sustained slowdown, marked by stagnant growth in key sectors like manufacturing, real estate, and exports. Despite efforts to stimulate the economy, such as monetary easing and infrastructure investment, these measures have shown limited success in reversing the trend. This downturn is accompanied by a demographic crisis, with record low birth rates and an aging population exacerbating long-term concerns.
The catastrophic outcomes of China's one-child policy, coupled with a cultural preference for male children, have led to profound social and demographic challenges that continue to impact the country today. Introduced in 1980, the one-child policy aimed to curb population growth by restricting families to a single child, with few exceptions. This strict measure, enforced through financial penalties, forced abortions, and sterilizations, reduced the birth rate but created unforeseen social issues. For families bound by the policy, a deeply ingrained cultural preference for male heirs led many to seek ways to ensure a son, leading to imbalanced birth rates and a missing generation of women. One of the most pronounced effects of the one-child policy has been the dramatic gender imbalance in China. For decades, families resorted to sex-selective abortions, female infanticide, or abandonment to ensure their one permitted child was male. This created a distorted sex ratio. Currently, there are approximately 30 to 40 million more men than women in China, according to some estimates. The impact of this demographic imbalance is wide-reaching, affecting marriage rates and leading to a marriage squeeze, where millions of men struggle to find partners due to the shortage of women in their age group. This gender imbalance has had significant social consequences. In rural areas where the traditional preference for male children was even stronger, the lack of available brides has fueled human trafficking, with women from neighboring countries being kidnapped or lured into China to marry local men. The shortage of women has also driven up the so-called bride price, making marriage a costly pursuit for families and further marginalizing poorer men who cannot afford these costs. The intense competition for brides has led to social isolation for many men, particularly in rural regions, exacerbating mental health issues and contributing to social unrest. Furthermore, China now faces an aging population problem exacerbated by the one-child policy. With the fertility rate well below replacement levels, fewer young people are available to support the elderly population, leading to significant pressure on social services, health care, and pensions. The one-child generation, often referred to as the 4-to-1 generation, finds itself in a position where each individual may eventually need to support two parents and for grandparents without siblings to share the burden. This demographic pressure has already started straining China's social safety net and has significant implications for economic growth, which relies on a productive workforce. The one-child policy also fostered a sense of isolation and pressure on the children growing up in single-child households. Often dubbed little emperors or little empresses, these children were subjected to high parental expectations and societal pressure to succeed academically and professionally. As adults, many face a dual burden of providing for their parents and competing in a challenging job market with limited opportunities. This societal pressure has led to increasing mental health issues, anxiety, and dissatisfaction among Chinese youth, contributing to broader cultural trends like the lying flat and let it rot movements. To address these long-term demographic issues, the Chinese government has implemented policies encouraging couples to have 2 or even 3 children, effectively ending the one-child policy in 2016. However, these efforts have met with limited success. High living costs, competitive education systems, and career pressures make many young couples reluctant to have more than one child. Some surveys show that Chinese women, in particular, are disillusioned with the idea of raising multiple children, citing financial insecurity and the lack of support from partners or the state as primary concerns. As a result, the birth rate has continued to fall despite government encouragement. The effects of the one-child policy have also influenced women's roles and societal expectations. The reduced female population has given some women greater leverage in choosing partners and negotiating marriage terms. However, traditional gender roles remain pervasive, and many women face pressure to balance careers with expectations around marriage and motherhood. Women who prioritize careers or delay marriage face social stigma, sometimes being labeled as leftover women by the media and society. This cultural clash has led to dissatisfaction among women who seek greater autonomy and equality but are still constrained by societal norms. Ultimately, the one-child policy and preference for male children have left a lasting legacy in China. The demographic challenges it created are difficult to reverse, with declining birth rates and an aging population posing threats to China's economic growth and social stability. Addressing these issues will require comprehensive reform, including better support for families, more gender equality, and a shift in societal norms surrounding family and gender. The one-child policy serves as a cautionary tale for countries considering restrictive population controls, demonstrating the far-reaching and often unpredictable consequences of such policies. China's declining youth population and shifting values have broader implications for its economy and society. A smaller youth cohort means fewer workers to support the rapidly aging population, placing greater pressure on social safety nets, health care, and pensions. This graying population could become a severe drain on the economy, with fewer young people entering the workforce to replace retirees. Additionally, as younger generations become disillusioned with traditional goals like home ownership and high-status careers, the consumer economy may suffer as young people hesitate to spend on major life milestones or luxury items. Another consequence of this youth shift is a decline in the innovative and entrepreneurial energy that characterized China's rapid economic rise in recent decades. In the past, young Chinese entrepreneurs were known for their drive to develop new technologies and establish ambitious startups. However, the difficult job market and mounting economic pressures have led many to prioritize job stability over risky ventures. This has translated to a cultural shift away from innovation as young people seek security over ambition, potentially affecting China's long-term economic competitiveness and ability to lead in industries such as technology. The government has made efforts to counter these trends, promoting patriotic education to instill resilience and a sense of duty among the youth. However, there has been backlash against state pressure, as many young people feel disconnected from the values promoted in these campaigns. The economic pressures and social expectations placed on them often conflict with the government's goals of creating a harmonious and prosperous society. This growing gap between the state's objectives and the younger generation's realities could potentially lead to increased tension as young people push for more autonomy and support. This generational shift has also led to changes in urban-rural migration patterns, with some youth opting to leave major cities for smaller towns or rural areas where living costs are lower and competition is less intense. However, this migration does not always solve their challenges, as job opportunities in rural areas are limited and wages tend to be lower. Nonetheless, it reflects a desire among many young people to seek alternative lifestyles that prioritize well-being over the traditional path of urban success. These patterns indicate a broad rethinking of what constitutes a successful life among Chinese youth.
The end of China's youth, in terms of demographics and ambition, presents challenges for the global economy as well. China's youth were once seen as a significant driving force behind its rapid growth and emergence as a global economic powerhouse. A less ambitious and shrinking young population might mean reduced global competitiveness for China, impacting supply chains and global markets. In turn, other countries may experience ripple effects, as they rely on Chinese consumer demand and technological innovation to fuel their own growth. Ultimately, the end of China's youth is a complex phenomenon shaped by demographic, economic, and cultural factors. It marks a turning point for China, as the young generation grapples with unprecedented levels of pressure and redefines traditional expectations. The future for Chinese youth remains uncertain, with the government attempting to reverse these trends, but the societal transformation may be difficult to undo. As China's youth navigate these challenges, their choices and lifestyles may redefine Chinese society and its role on the global stage in ways that are yet to be fully understood.
Politically, President Xi Jinping's administration grapples with balancing internal stability and an increasingly assertive foreign policy. Xi's third term has seen tighter political control and reduced tolerance for dissent, which analysts warn could alienate citizens further. Public disillusionment is evident in the lie flat and run philosophy, reflecting a growing resignation among China's youth and middle class. These sentiments could erode the social cohesion critical to the regime's long-term legitimacy.
Internationally, China's strained relations with the U.S. and regional powers like India, Japan, and South Korea add complexity to its challenges. Geopolitical tensions over Taiwan, trade, and technological dominance have heightened, with many expecting more friction in 2024. At the same time, the global economy feels the ripple effects of China's slowdown, particularly in Asia-Pacific trade and investment networks. Observers note that while China has weathered crises before, the convergence of economic stagnation, demographic challenges, and geopolitical tensions makes this moment particularly precarious. Strategies to navigate this period include boosting domestic consumption, recalibrating foreign policy, and addressing systemic inequalities, but significant barriers remain. The broader implications of these developments are felt globally, as China's economic trajectory influences everything from commodity prices to global manufacturing supply chains. Businesses are urged to prepare for prolonged uncertainty by diversifying supply chains and planning for a slower growth environment. The Chinese government has also faced criticism for its handling of the property sector crisis, which remains a major contributor to economic instability. Major developers, including Evergrande, continue to face liquidity issues, with default risks rippling through the broader financial system. Despite regulatory attempts to contain the fallout, confidence in the real estate market has yet to recover. Local governments, heavily reliant on land sales for revenue, are grappling with mounting fiscal pressures. Social discontent is becoming more visible as economic challenges persist. Protests over labor rights, property disputes, and environmental concerns have risen, reflecting a population increasingly unwilling to accept the status quo. The government's suppression of dissent through tighter surveillance and media control has not fully mitigated public frustration, which analysts warn could evolve into larger-scale unrest if left unaddressed. China's environmental challenges are also worsening, compounding its economic and social struggles. Record levels of air and water pollution continue to plague urban centers, despite government pledges for greener growth. These environmental issues not only damage public health but also deter foreign investment and exacerbate public discontent. Meanwhile, China's international standing has taken a hit amid accusations of economic coercion and aggressive diplomacy. Recent sanctions and restrictions by the U.S. and its allies on Chinese technologies have further isolated the country. This growing estrangement from the West has driven Beijing to seek closer ties with Russia and other authoritarian regimes, raising concerns about global power realignment.
Looking ahead, experts suggest that China's ability to navigate its domestic and international challenges will hinge on significant reforms and a recalibration of its policies. Without structural changes to its economy and governance, the nation risks further stagnation and instability, which could have profound implications for both its population and the global community.
Thank you for watching, and don't forget to smash that subscribe, like, and notification bell for more global finance uncovered.